Have you ever felt yourself not welcome somewhere, not invited?
Have you felt like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see you're emotional.
Yeah.
And who were the people that inspired you?
Well, it's Mother's Day soon, so I guess the obvious choice is my own mum. She was a single working mother. She's also type 1 diabetic. So seeing her strength and resilience was really inspiring growing up, really inspiring. And I think she instilled in me, particularly in my teenage years when I was feeling very insecure and confused about what my purpose was. She really, really instilled in me that what I was thinking and what I was doing and what I was saying were ultimately infinitely more important than my physical appearance. And she really encouraged me to be an individual. I remember her being thrilled when I got my first detention because she was really worried, I think, that I was going to be a bit straight-laced.
What was it for?
Oh, I failed the Latin exam. Yeah.
You failed an exam and that was a detention.
Yeah, I failed. I think I failed it a few times actually, maybe more than once. Anyway, let's not go into that. But I think she did. She wanted me to be my own person. I want to offer a few statements of my own that I have struggled with and continue to struggle with on a daily basis, but that I have found inspiring. I want to ask you to take a moment. You can keep your eyes closed or keep them open, and ask yourself if these have any truth for you in them. I am willing to be seen. I am willing to speak up. I am willing to keep going. I am willing to listen to what others have to say. I am willing to go forward even when I feel alone. I am willing to go to bed each night at peace with myself. I am willing to be my biggest, bestest, most powerful self.
Everyone has a story. People tend to judge and interpret behavior without going to the source of that behavior. Like they say that every saint, has a past and every sinner has a future. And it's so true. You can't, people can change and people make mistakes and people are human, and you kind of need to love them for that. And I hope that people take that away, finding a way to love their imperfections and love themselves. And really, you can't truly accept other people until you accept yourself, and you can't really accept yourself until you accept other people. It kind of all weirdly goes hand in hand. And when you show kindness and compassion for yourself, then you're able to extend it, and it's all inextricably linked.
Just don't let anyone tell you what you can or cannot do, or can or cannot achieve. Just don't allow it. Just do not allow it. It's wrong. It's so wrong. Be whatever you want to be. What I love about Belle is that she's kind of, if you look at her within sort of the category of those Disney characters, she's kind of the rogue. She takes a different course. That was always what I loved about Belle. Like when I think about Belle, I think about her singing Belle Reprise, which is her sort of coming out of her house and singing this song, which is just kind of like bursting out of her, which is, I know everyone around me can't understand why I don't want what everyone else thinks that I should want and which is being handed to me, but I really just want something more. I want something else. Like, this doesn't fit, I don't fit. She kind of, like the Robert Frost poem, she takes the road less traveled. And I always really identified with that. She's Bella's no sheep. She's really on her own, just on her own path.
She's friends with sheep, though.
She's friends with sheep. She is friends with sheep, but she's on her own thing, and there's this like defiance, and that energy, that spirit was really what I identified with in her. It's every day, it's individuals, it's on a case-by-case basis, taking action, just doing something. Whether it's speaking up, whether it's, just trying to change the way that someone else thinks about the issues. It can be done in so many different ways. I can't tell people. It's got to be your story. It's got to be how you personally can make a difference. And it can be anything. And the smallest thing, the smallest gesture goes such a long way. It does. It really, really does.
Will you forever be self-partnered, even if you do have an actual partner? 100%. For me, it's much more about your relationship with yourself and the feeling of you're not somehow deficient in some way because you aren't with someone. You're like, I got this. I got myself.
Because a lot of young actors and musicians today, they kind of spin out of control a little bit. Why are you so good at just like making your career is amazing and you're just making the right decisions all the time?
Oh, thank you. That's really nice to hear. I guess I've just been really lucky in the sense that I've been offered a really diverse and interesting range of roles, and I've just tried to do things that slightly terrify me every time, I guess. I mean, almost every project I've done since Harry Potter, I've felt really, really scared to start, so I've just kept trying to challenge myself. There's something about humour to me which speaks to humility, which speaks to being humble, to being human, it's such a way to connect people, and I think as long as you're not taking yourself too seriously, nothing can go too badly wrong.
How do I drop my career and become an actor? What do you think?
That's awesome! You seem like the kind of person you would want to watch.
I want to be a film director.
Do what you love and make films about what you love. You can argue yourself into making decisions that don't have heart behind them, and they're never the right ones. Just always follow the thing that feels the most right to you. People to be able to take action and make change and actually, translate that passion into really doing something.
You had a choice. I mean, you went to college, and you had a choice then to either continue acting or pursue something else. You majored in English literature, is that right? What made you decide that acting was then going to become the main event and not just something you used to do?
Perks of being a wallflower.
Really?
Really. Yeah, it's so funny because I went to college and I was genuinely kind of like, well, I'm going to go study and then I'll see what happens. And then Steve sent me the script for Perks of Being a Wallflower, and I went and I sat down with him, and it just reignited this. I was like...
Had you read the book before you read the script?
No, I hadn't. So I read the book, and it just gave me this weird compulsion. I was like, I have to tell this story. Oh my God, if I don't do this, nothing else makes sense. Like, I don't want to spend my time doing anything other than making sure that this movie gets made.
I must go to Pittsburgh.
I must go to Pittsburgh. I must get funding for this movie. And it's like, and it was really strange because I just didn't know coming out of Harry Potter whether I was going to feel that way about anything else for a long time. I had loved performing and I had loved acting, but really a big part of the passion for me was that I just loved those stories and I wanted to be part of that world, and I loved who that character was. And it wasn't so much for me about the idea of being an actress. It was the idea of, like, I just want to be part of this. And Perks and working with Steve and feeling that I had something else to give and offer was what really did that for me. It was tough. It was really tough. I felt very torn a lot, but it was so worth it. I'm so excited about going to university, and I want to have my cake and eat it. I want the best of both worlds. I want to do everything. The difficulty with me is that I'm interested in so many different things. I can never really imagine myself doing one thing, and I'm pretty sure that I'll end up doing 4 or 5 different things. I want to be a Renaissance woman. That's my thing. I want to paint, and I want to write, and I want to act, and I want to just do everything. But like, there's any part of you that feels that it's okay to make that person not feel included.
They get scary when they get old.
Making people feel not included, I think, is just such a painful, awful thing to do. And it has such big effect. And have you ever felt that you weren't included? Have you ever felt yourself not welcome somewhere, not invited?
Have you felt like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see you're emotional.
Yeah, I have.
You've been in bed for 3 days. Oh, honey. Oh.
Which is, people say to me, I can't imagine, and I go, maybe not in that specific way, but you can imagine in other ways. And it's the same for me, it's the same for you, it's the same for whoever this imaginary person is that I'm speaking to now. Which is to say, you might not have experienced this in this specific way, but you will have experienced it in your life in some way, and you will know how that made you feel. And do you want to perpetuate that? Do you want to make somebody else feel that horrible, horrible feeling inside yourself, that someone telling you you're not welcome, you don't belong, you're not included, we don't want you here? There have been moments when I've struggled with it in my own life as a woman, which is, for some reason, women are still in a place where we feel like we need to be given permission. Like we need permission to be our full selves, to use our full voice, to want to lead. And I think that has to change with encouragement and role models, and you know, just changing that mindset.
What is the best way to find a good partner?
So I would say, like, follow your dreams, and like, as a kind of like side note, when you're not even thinking about it or like noticing it, it will just be there because you love the same things. And I think that's the other beautiful thing about the love story, is that they form a friendship first. The love builds out of that, which in many ways I actually think is more meaningful than a lot of love stories where it was love at first sight and you're dealing with all of these kind of projections. Slowly builds to friendship, slowly, very slowly builds to them falling in love. That is a big problem with a lot of traditionally written fairy tales, is that you're like, so the girl's just gonna give up her entire existence and everything that's important to her for this guy. She does sing about her Prince Charming. I think as well, like, Prince Charming is someone that comes along and understands her. She's waiting for someone that makes her feel understood in some way.
As a woman, would you be offended if a man opened a door for you? And there's a lot of people who think about things like that and go, well, I mean, they're worrying maybe about the smallest issues there. But how would you feel?
I love having the door open for me. I mean, isn't that just polite? Isn't that just nice? Isn't that just a nice thing to do for someone else? I love having the door open for me. I love being taken to dinner. It's so great. Or whatever makes you each feel comfortable. But it's just, I think the key is, like, chivalry should be consensual. Both parties should be feeling good about that. And I think it's just a problem when people expect things to be a certain way, to follow a certain status quo. And it's awkward and it's messy, and we're in transition right now, and everyone doesn't really feel like they know what to do, but it's okay. Just be willing to have that awkward conversation. It does come out okay in the end. It does. It really does. Just have an open mind and don't have expectations based on the gender or the sex you see in front of you. Yes.
What did you want to change? Like, what did you want to bring to it to make it your own, your version of Belle?
What's so beautiful about the story as a whole is this idea that Belle is able to see past these extraneous, external, superficial qualities of Beast. She's able to see deeper, and that's one of her that's kind of one of her special powers, is that she can see behind his anger and frustration, see the pain and vulnerability and insecurity. I think she can see in Beast that there's someone that has been fundamentally good, that has been damaged, and that kind of just needs rehabilitating almost, and is just in need of love. Whereas Gaston is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, who is someone who has had nothing but love and admiration and easiness, and because he's never suffered, he doesn't have any empathy. He doesn't have any empathy. He's essentially a narcissist. So in that way, I see Beast and Gaston as opposites, and on opposite ends of the spectrum.
I'm really genuinely disturbed by this idea that men can't cry, and that they just can't express themselves. They can't talk about how they actually feel. I think that's actually the saddest thing in the world. It's so bad. It's crazy. It's what makes you human. How you feel, being able to express yourself, being passionate, being emotional. It's what makes you human. It's not what makes you a girl. It's what makes you human. I mean, it's if you've got a beating heart and you care about things, that's great. That's so good. I think men should be equal partners in raising children. I do. I think there shouldn't be an assumption that having children is something that only affects women, because women need men's support in those circumstances just as much. And I think it's a really unfair assumption to make that it's only women that are going to be sidetracked by raising children. It's one of the most important things as a human being, that you can be involved with, is fostering and nurturing a human being. And men need to be playing their part too. I don't think it's enough to discriminate against a woman or hold her back or not to recognize the potential that she has. Being brave enough to acknowledge that things aren't there yet, and also supporting each other massively. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel so stressed and anxious.
Wow.
And I realize it's because there is suddenly this bloody influx of subliminal messaging around. If you have not built a home, if you do not have a husband, if you do not have a baby, and you are turning 30, and you're not in some incredibly secure, stable place in your career, or you're still figuring things out, there's just this incredible amount of anxiety. Being a child star, as they call it, or having worked as a minor, you do sort of have to be aware of the kind of trajectory, and also kind of aware that people are viewing your performances through a very different lens. I saw a really interesting article yesterday that, people had seen the trailer and they're like, oh, Emma Watson, scandalous, really trying to push the envelope and step away from Hermione and Harry Potter and whatever else. And it's I'm just kissing someone, and it's kind of this huge deal. And it's, so, you're aware of that, but you also, I don't like to try and let all of that noise affect my choices and my decisions, because ultimately, if you live like that, then I think it would close me off to a lot of opportunities and experiences, and I'd never do anything.
I was appointed as Goodwill Ambassador for UN Women 6 months ago. And the more I've spoken about feminism, the more I have realized that fighting for women's rights has too often become synonymous with man-hating. If there is one thing I know for certain, it is that this has to stop. For the record, feminism, by definition, is the belief that men and women should have equal rights and opportunities. I decided that I was a feminist, and this seemed uncomplicated to me. Apparently, I am among the ranks of women whose expressions are seen as too strong, too aggressive, isolating, and anti-men, unattractive even. Why has the word become such an uncomfortable one? I am from Britain, and I think it is right that I am paid the same as my male counterparts. I think it is right that I should be able to make decisions about my own body. I think it is right that women be involved on my behalf in the policies and the decisions that will affect my life. I think it is right that socially I am afforded the same respect as men. But sadly, I can say that there is no one country in the world where all women can expect to receive these rights. No country in the world can yet say that they have achieved gender equality. Both men and women should feel free to be sensitive. Both men and women should feel free to be strong. It is time that we all perceive gender on a spectrum instead of two sets of opposing ideals. If we stop defining each other by what we are not and start defining ourselves by who we are, we can all be freer. And this is what HeForShe is about. It's about freedom. All I know is that I care about this problem and I want to make it better. And having seen what I've seen and given the chance, I feel it is my responsibility to say something. I've told myself firmly, if not me, who? If not now, when? If you have similar doubts when opportunities are presented to you, I hope that those words will be helpful.
Holy cricket! You're Harry Potter! I'm Hermione Granger. And